I really do think a lot needs to be said about the, you know, many violations that actually goes on within marriages. You know, even speaking from my own example, there's just so much that I know was happening to me while I was married that I was not okay with. But the conditioning to silence yourself, the conditioning to just, you are married now, so you just make yourself available. You just make your body available. Do you understand what I mean? So my heart does go out to people that I know are married. Some of you are flagging the violations. Some of you aren't. But your body will always remember. It will log it. And whether you choose to process that information or not, it will come out in many different ways in other areas that seemingly seem unrelated. There's a form of sexual assault, sexual abuse that I do want to draw to you guys' attention. And that is when you just find yourself perpetually pregnant and barefooted. You will just be changing pampers. You will not even know what happened to you. It ties into, again, what we mean by the autonomy over your own body. You find you don't even have that. I'm not going to sit here and say, having children or having many children is an issue or whatever. But there are some of you that you do know you don't have a say-so in the number of children you want to have, and which is even all the more annoying because we already know the bulk of the caregiving falls on us. I'm sorry to say, it is your complete right to decide the number of children you want to have and the way in which you are going to accommodate your mothering of the children you choose to bring into this world. No man, no husband, no fiance, no baby daddy has that right. That right starts and ends with you. That's number one. So your reproductive health for a lot of women, especially those of us in long-term relationships, marriages, it has been taken over.
You don't have any agency, or you don't have sole agency over your reproductive rights.
It is a hostage situation in the hands of some significant other. And it's not even really because they have your best interest at heart. So it is really just a power play for some of these men. So don't joke with your rights, your reproductive rights. I also want to just say very, very clearly now that this channel, number one, we support the right to abortion. That is your right and your right alone. Then two, your contraceptives, the one you want to partake in, up to and including permanently sterilizing yourself. You have that right.
And by that we mean tubal ligation.
Exactly. So, because I know that was something for me that I was very, very, insistent on because I knew the person I was married to. And there were just too many stories of supposed husbands fiddling with people's birth control.
Or birth control failing.
Some of you already know. You have reached the capacity of your mothering. Don't hand over that decision to anybody. No matter how much they may claim to love you, it's supposed to be a joint decision. Yes. No. Because we all know when it comes to the actual caregiving of that child is not usually a joint decision. It falls fully on you. So that's something we shouldn't joke with. And on this channel, we encourage you to take that power into your hands to have the final decision on any and everything regarding your reproductive health.
There are many ways in which this corner wuru around reproduction happens. You'll find men who, we've decided that we're using condoms. All of a sudden it's where the act is about to occur and it's, oh no, let's go raw. I'll pull out. Oh yeah, pull out now. Baba will now tell you, I got carried away.
I forgot myself.
Exactly. I got carried away, this, that, the other. Or there are women who have trusted their husbands to get a vasectomy. And they cosplay that they did, but they didn't.
And she turns up pregnant.
And then, you turn up pregnant again. So things like that, like, men find any way to get whatever it is they want, damn the consequences,
and they rely on your just
acquiescing to it. But also they rely on their duplicity, on their deception, on their manipulation, and on their violation.
Honestly, I have to share the story actually of this couple, because these are people that I know of. The man claimed to have gotten a vasectomy, came home. For 2 weeks, they were giving this man a pepper soup,
icing his crotch,
giving him ice. And you know how men do when it's like they just have a simple cold. The whole house just turns upside down, just hand and foot waiting on the man. So he acted his drama. And of course, the woman turned up pregnant. She was so upset that by the time she was having that baby, she's not even requested tubal ligation or anything like that. A full hysterectomy is what she requested. Remove the tubes, remove the womb, remove everything removable in that place. When I heard that story, I could feel how hurt, how violated she felt about that act. And to the point where she went overboard because she just did not even want to hear anything about anything failing. Again, the violence. And it was the depth of how violated she felt that she now felt the need to even overcorrect too in her own situation in trying to rectify that thing. It's part of what you mean by the religious programming, because some other person who is non-religious will just be like, I beg you, I'm just going to go and get my abortion in peace and move on, rather than going through this long route. Do you get what I mean? So again, guys, you have to be very vigilant about your own reproductive health. There are some women that I know that they tied their tubes behind their husband's back. They didn't care. I'm here to let you know that as you are delivering the baby, as the baby is coming out of you, you can tie your tubes on the spot. I know this, and this is something that they've been doing from time, because I know my mom did it. She tied it as she was having her last baby. She was shouting, that hey, Joe, please, we are tying this thing. Do you get what I mean? So again, guys, because at the end of the day, the full burden, it falls on you. Everything rests on you. So don't abdicate your decision-making rights on this issue. Some of us, even to the fact that we are here debating breastfeeding with somebody. I'm sorry, anything that has to do with your body, the right belongs to you to decide on what happens with your body.
And this whole thing we're talking about reproductive rights. So this is something that is actively being withheld from women or stripped from those who already once had it. We've seen what happened with Roe v. Wade in the U.S. Or other countries where abortion is not legal, but you will find children turning up pregnant and being forced to carry the pregnancy to term, whatever result that may have on her health. And it's just crazy, because why is the child even pregnant in the first place? Who is responsible for that? Like we said, even corpses are not exempt from this. You will find women in comas who are unconscious in the hospital and they will turn up pregnant. Like this thing, when we talk about the depravity of men, do not take it lightly.
And do not feel like because you are married to one, you are
exempt from it.
In fact, I would even go further to say that now you have actually tied yourself
to it, because
to your own personal, if you get what I mean, the one that will now be pouring it on you directly.
Because again, these men, they find stealthy ways again to dominate you, to degrade you, to violate you, especially if you're somebody who is assertive in every other sphere of your life. When it comes to sex, when it comes to the bedroom activities, and you're very vulnerable, you're very open, you're under the impression that you're with someone you love. If you clock in and if you read the energy, you will find ways, subtle and otherwise, in which men are violating their partners, their spouses. Another thing is porn. If you look at the pornography that is filmed for, created for, and marketed to men, it is disgusting. It is disgusting what they see the role of women to be. In those scenarios. And these are not just some high fantasies concocted out of nowhere. No, it is what they mean the reality to be. It is the pictorial representation of the energetic exchange that happens when you're having sex with a cishet man.
Of their desires, and then
Exactly, of their desires.
No qualms bringing what they saw
from the screen and then putting it on you or demanding it from you, whether you want to be part of it or not. Their stories, you just need to search, do a perfunctory search, and you will find stories of women, wives, long-term partners, committed spouses, who this porn issue has just
wreaked havoc
all over themselves, their psyches, their spirits, their so-called partnerships, ruins it. Because again of the taste of men and what they want women to be, which we are not. We are people. We are humans.
To be honest, I'm actually quite triggered in this episode. So I really do hope that people support work like ours that you come across, content like ours that you come across, because it takes a toll having these kinds of discussions. People need to hear, because we say this all the time. Abuse is pedestrian. Whether you are clocking it or not, a lot of us are being violated. We don't know it, but the impact is still there. Your body is still suffering. You are still health issues are coming up from you, because whether you are clocking it or not, your body is impacted by some of these violations. So please, guys, when you see content like ours, push it out there, because it takes a lot of work. Sitting down here, sharing personal experiences, doing the research, talking about these heavy, heavy topics. But we feel called to do it because when your eyes are open, you can't even be quiet, even if you wanted to be. And again, I hate that I feel like I have to keep saying this, that this is not a man bashing channel, but where we see mess, we call it out.
It's a truth telling channel, and we're simply telling the truth.
It is what it is. I just want to be very, very clear, because I feel like we need to say it explicitly again for people to hear. Sex, any sex that is happening where there isn't an enthusiastic yes from both parties, male, female, whatever gender you present, where there isn't an enthusiastic yes, it is rape. It doesn't matter if it is violent, if it is whatever it is that you are not presenting in that arena enthusiastically, participating actively in the pleasure, you are being assaulted in that space. It is a hard pill to swallow, but better swallow it.
And that's on period. And it needs to be noted as well that consent is dynamic. It is not just, it is dynamic. It shifts. Consent today does not mean consent tomorrow. Consent this minute does not mean consent the next. Consent at the start of an act does not mean consent to the completion. Consent for one particular act today does not mean consent for that act over and over, forever and forever. Consent is dynamic, so you need to be consistently checking in with yourself and be vocal about how you feel about what is going on moment to moment.
And at any point where you feel uncomfortable,
it is your full right to withdraw consent. If you find yourself having to say no more than once, you're being coerced. If someone suggests something and you say no, and then they come back again to try it, and like,
or they try and
no,
sneak it in,
is no, then you're being coerced. And like I said, these things happen on such nuanced and subtle way. They happen in such nuanced and subtle ways. And they also happen just very overtly as well. And a lot of women will be left just, you can't even articulate what has really happened, when you've been coerced, manipulated, violated like that. But you need to trust your own self. Trust what your body and your spirit is communicating to you.
And don't carry the shame.
And don't carry the shame. It's not yours to bear. Exactly. It's not yours to bear. And one of the ways of offloading that shame is, again, as we say on this channel, is to shatter your silence.
You know, as much as we are doing a lot of talking to women on this channel, for me, I really do hate that yet and again, the burden still always falls on us. So I'm putting a challenge out here to you men that happen to come across our content, that look, we hear you people shouting all the time, not all men, not all men, not all men. But yet and still, over and over and over again, it is still men that we have to just keep dragging by their pubes to the town square and be like, you people are doing these things to women.
There's so many women who themselves have been violated, who know so many other women that have been violated, but it is not all men. There are men who deny doing these things and deny knowing anyone who's doing them. So who is doing it? Ghosts? Spirits?
Me, I don't even believe that they don't know, because
they know.
When they are doing their locker room chat, it's because they feel it. They know the guy that is a little shady, that goes too far with the jokes, that goes too far with the this, with the that comes to tell them their exploits, and they too, they feel uncomfortable that, that one is macho. Do you get what I'm saying? They know, but for whatever reason, there's this investment to just gaslight the collective experience of women, just to preserve that veneer of, we are not the ones doing anything.
No, I think it's also that they identify with that man and are willing to, again, downplay, put a shade on what he's doing, to get the same favor when they are engaging in such behaviors. Because again, sexual violence is just such a common phenomenon. But then it is like one of the most denied things. Like,
the most difficult to prove.
Men will, the denial, my God, they will contort themselves into all sorts of pretzels and shapes, deny evidence that is right in front of their eyes, twist logic to say that this thing is not happening, and it is all in a bid, again, to gaslight women, to preserve their ability to continue to be able to engage in these behaviors. And it's just gross.
And you know the funny thing, because sometimes the reason why they defend these violent men and their violent acts is, some of them too, they still want to be able to feel better that, at least I'm not like his own. So they like to keep these people close, actually. They like to keep them around because it also helps them feel better about their own nastiness, that their own might not be as
nice
bad
guy.
as... Yeah, exactly. They like to wear that they are nice guy thing. So, because they know that they are doing dirty. They know they are doing things. But they don't... But
as long as there's someone in their circle who is worse than them, then it's like it automatically absolves them from their own trash.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this topic, it's a very difficult one to have. It's very nuanced. There are many layers to this topic. And I'm sure there are just so many of us can sit around the campfire and we can be sharing story upon story upon story. But the point of bringing up conversations like this is not just to just share our traumas and just move on. But it really is to hold people in our lives accountable, hold ourselves to accountable, because my God, we have to save ourselves. We cannot just submit to the helplessness of
Status quo.
We can't just submit. You have to help yourself. Some of you, again, I'm sorry to say, some of you are in these marriages that are harming you and you know it. Some of you don't know it, but there's some inkling somewhere. Please investigate these inklings that you keep feeling, the butterfly in your belly that is not allowing you rest. Sweeping it under the carpet doesn't help. So please, these things that we're doing here, let's all just make sure we keep fighting for our souls. We owe ourselves that much. The responsibility rests on us to fight for us. And we will win. We're warriors on this channel. We will win.
When you start calling out men, a common rebuttal that men will give to you that, when you say, oh, men are this, men are that, even they'll call your family members. Yes, many men will act surprised, to be confronted with the fact that they are sexual predators, they have been predatory, and they have enacted sexual violence on people they supposedly love and casual acquaintances. And yes, that includes our daddies, our brothers, our husbands, our uncles, all join. So when we're talking about men here, there's no exempting any one individual. We're talking about y'all as a collective. We're talking about y'all in a systemic sense. We're talking about patriarchy. We're talking about misogyny. And we don't give a shit because women are dying. Okay. And we here as Black women, I talked about the stats from the CDC, saying half of all women have experienced sexual violence that involved physical contact. 1 in 4, 25%, have suffered either attempted or completed rape. Those are general statistics. When you break it down further and you start going into the demographics and you look at what Black women are shouldering, what Indigenous women and Native women are suffering, I'm sorry. Like, this is ridiculous. And rape is not just something that happens and someone just pops up and recovers from and goes around the next day. People are affected for the rest of their lives. People have PTSD. People commit suicide because they're unable to live with the trauma of sexual violence. So it's not just you dilly-dallying and getting to get your jollies off. You are hurting people. You are killing women and femmes and girls and children. So yeah, the truth has to be told, and it has to be told unapologetically. Let's not even get into the missing women statistics. Those women who are abducted and taken away, what do you think is happening to them before they're eventually given the gift of death? It's trash. It's trash. And we're not standing for it here on this channel, not here at the Warrior Enclave. We're not coddling anybody. We're not pampering anybody's feelings. Fuck your feelings. We're talking about lives here.
I think the fact that people feel like they can then silence people by saying, hey, even your daddy too. It just shows again your complete ignorance again. Yes.
And rasness of mind.
People's daddies are raping them.
Yes.
People's uncles, people's brothers, people's cousins. The statistics are very clear. You are more likely to be raped by a close family member, a close family friend, than some stranger boogeyman out on the streets. So, if you want to silence me by saying, even your daddy too, yes, daddy, brother, uncle, they're all there. We're calling everybody out. Because even if they are not the ones doing this personally, talk now, defend your fellow women. They still don't want to do that. So then you're complicit. So, like, what do you want us to now say now?
I don't know everybody who has interacted with them. These my so-called family members. You want me to go and ask all the women? that they have interacted with. Will I be surprised by what I hear? No.
So it is what it is. Like, it really is what it is. These topics, again, there's only so much we can talk about them, because there's so much that is in my mind that I want to bring to the forefront. But I'm just like, if we have to talk about this thing exhaustively, we will talk for hours. I think this kind of topic might have to just probably have some other live or some Patreon episode or something. So I'm happy to wrap it up here. It's a heavy topic. We encourage you to go and process it further. Think about your life further. Think about your experiences further. Bring things up to the forefront, but do it carefully and gently, because again, you have to be ready to address some of the truths that come up for you as you are processing these kinds of information. So,
and once again, we just continue to encourage you and challenge you. Those of you who do know, it's for me, I feel that once you know, I feel like it's a spiritual mandate for you, to set others free once you have attained your own freedom via knowledge. Oh my God, the truth does indeed set one free. And once you do know it, I feel like it's your duty to tell it, in whatever means that comes about for you, even if it is just simply living authentically moment to moment. That is the way we break these chains and shackles. That is the way we help others. And so we just continue to encourage you to shatter your silence, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, send an email to authenticitywarrior@gmail.com, share your stories. We're available for them. Take care of yourself. If you've made it through to the end of this episode, as we said at the beginning, there was a content warning, there was a trigger warning. As you could probably tell, even some of us here actually doing the video are a little turned. And, we'll be doing our own aftercare afterwards. But yeah, thank you for joining us here at the Warrior Enclave, for listening and for hearing what we have to say. Once again, we see you, we hear you, and we believe you here at the Warrior Enclave. Bye, warriors.